Hello everybody. We are still working on the hammer here. This time we are going to be animating it instead. So we've already set up the controls from the last video. Oh look, it's already animated. I'm going to redo this for you live, but this is basically what we want to get at the end of it, utilizing all the controls that we made in the last video. So actually, since all my keyframes are on this, if I just select all of these and delete them, then all my animation gets deleted, which makes me sad, but oh well. I'm just going to save this as a new version right away so I can preserve that original animation just in case. Okay, so yeah, we have this. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this, and we can do this. And that should be all we need. Now, I do want to bring in a little, that crate guy. I want to reference him in. Crate. And my crate has some controls on it too. First of all, I just have this controller. Motion blur is spazzing out there. This controller to control it. And I also have this. I thought I turned off my controller. I also have this so I can smash it. Just a quick blend shape I made, and then I set it up to this with a set driven key, as we do. So I have this crate, and I can make the hammer smash it. So I'm going to put the crate off to the side for a little bit. I'm going to hide that. Oh, actually, I just hid that. I have to hide my whole group here. If I want to hide the whole thing. It's usually good to organize everything with a overarching group, just in case. You're never going to touch this, but you might use it to hide stuff and whatnot. So the basic gist of our animation here is that we want our hammer to move back with some anticipation and possibly even tilt backwards like this. Obviously, we have to figure that out. So get some anticipation on there. Swing forward with both those, and then smash our crate once I get that in place. Smash the crate, recover for a second, and then come back to its original resting position, and maybe do some follow through as it hits there. The hammer bend we're just going to use for exaggeration once we have the rest of it blocked in. So we're not going to worry about that for now. But let's just get started putting our keyframes in. And I'm actually not going to have auto key on for now. I'm going to hand key everything, and maybe I'll turn on auto key later once I already have my main components in place. So I'm going to set a key at frame 1, obviously. Turn my keyframes blue. Thanks, Dan, for pointing that out to me. Anyway, I'm going to set my keyframe to 1. And, don't be overly concerned about your timing when you start doing this. So I'm just going to kind of go to frame 12. I don't know if that's the right frame or not, but I'm going to go to frame 12, and I'm going to go back. And I think I'm going to tilt it's not going to go all the way, I don't think. It's only going to tilt some of the way. So I'm going to tilt it like that. I can translate my hammer back as far as I want. Now I may not want to translate that back all the way either, because I might want to bend it a little bit as well. So I can kind of set up my first pose like this, and I'm going to set another keyframe there. Now I'm going to have that sit for a little bit. I don't want to immediately go forward, so I'm going to just set another keyframe here. And obviously I don't want this to be perfectly still in my final animation, but for right now I'm just going to blocking in the timing. So go back like that, and then the rotate forward is going to be pretty darn fast. So I might only move up to here, and we're already going to get rid of that. Add in this all the way to 10. And again, in case you're confused, I'm just middle mouse clicking in here and dragging to control these values. And I'm going to smash the patriarchy. I mean the crate. And, you know, that should probably look something like that. This time I'm not going to put the bend in. I want this to be straight because I want it to look more, you know, forceful. The bend is mostly for when it's moving to exaggerate the arcs, if, you know, considering all our principles of animation here. So either way, set a keyframe here. And then I'll let that sit for a second. Well, when I say a second, I don't literally mean a second because that would be a full 24 frames. I just mean a kind of a beat here. And I'm going to let that sit, and then I'll have it come back to its original position. And don't even know exactly what happened there. And what is happening? That is rather unusual. It's very strange. Maybe I just better set a keyframe. This is weird. Who knows? That just happens sometimes. And I'm just going to set everything back to 0, although that's not what I want to actually happen in my final animation. But if I just watch it now, I can get a pretty good idea of my timing. And obviously this is very rough. I want to do more to this, but this is basically as much as I want to do to start getting my timing worked out properly. And, you know, it's pretty good. I think the motion from here to here could actually be faster. And I think I messed up something here. Yes, I did mess up something here. So if you notice what's happening, starting on this frame, the both of the anchors are kind of they're both have values above 0, so they're kind of conflicting with each other. And I don't actually want that because even though it might be a good idea to have this jump off the ground, that is not the way I want to achieve it because it's not meant for that. So here I'll actually have to kind of figure out a place in the middle almost where I can kind of set a keyframe where this one is at 0 and the keyframe right before that, this one will be at 0. So basically what I did there is with only a 1 frame difference, so pretty much unperceptible, we have those transitioning. So there's always one at 0. Now, I don't think this is necessarily the best placement of those because we can see that we're going from here just to 5. So from here to 0 straight to 5. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete both those keyframes, or just one of them. And I just thought of a better way of doing this, which is that I'm just going to set them both to 0. And now, that was the easy solution. Not sure why I didn't think of that first, but now it comes to a rest and then flies forward. Now, this I may want, you know, depending on my timing, I may want this to actually happen sooner. But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. So that's starting to look better. There's kind of a slight jump where the transition happens. I think I may also want to have that not bend anymore at that point, and maybe I'll have it bend here. That looks weird too. I'm gonna change my mind on that. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Don't be too committed to um, don't be too committed to a specific thing just because you've set it in the keyframes. Keyframes are easy to change. There's nothing preventing us from changing them anytime we want. So here we have our timing. That's a bit of a weird shift, but we can look at the graph editor for that too. Okay, so speaking of the graph editor, we should probably go look at that. But I think first we should maybe play around with some of this timing here, or start add a little bit of extra animation. So maybe in here we have the hammer bend like this first. So just by adding that kind of counter action, I automatically make my animation look a little bit snazzier. So instead of just leaning back straight, it leans back, curves, then snaps the opposite way. And you know, maybe I'll increase this. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to decrease this, and then by the time it reaches here, it increases, and I might increase all of these by a little bit. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what's going on with those anchor controls. They may be a little wonky, I think. But, okay, so here, when we go up here, we want maximum bending right about here. And then that's a bit weird that that happened one frame later. Maybe we'll move this guy. Maybe when it's flying here, we have this be slightly back still. Oh, that looks weird now. Oh, I accidentally play blasted. Please stop. I mean, I do want to look at a play blast, but not right now. What happens if I do that? I think that looks pretty good, actually. I may even move this attribute, sorry, keyframe slightly closer. I think that's a bit more forceful, so just move that forward a little bit. And here, between here and here, we don't want to be completely frozen. So I might do a little bit of movement like this at this part. Here it bends this way. And, you know, maybe this guy gets pulled back a little bit also. And if we have any extra keyframes, like some of these keyframes in here, I may end up wanting to delete. I'm going to delete those in the graph editor instead. if I only want to delete them on a specific attribute. So maybe here we're still forward a little bit. Then he flies back up. And we also want to go a little bit in the opposite direction. Like that. Although that's too slow, you can tell already. And then finally come to a rest at our normal position. Now, is that the right timing? Well, it's up to you. Or it's up to me, rather. But, I mean, it could work. It's almost a little too fast. But that might be what we want in this case. I might try scaling those out. Snapping them. See what that looks like. I kind of like that, you know? It's pretty snappy. And now I think it's about time to go into the graph editor. And all of our keyframes are going to be on this one controller, and it might look a little confusing just because we have a lot going on here. Now when you're looking in the graph editor, you want to kind of look for parts that are slightly off kilter. So, you know, this kind of looks like a pretty solid straight line just going diagonally, but then we have these attributes in here that are kind of like messing up the flow of it, so to speak. So with little keyframes like this, you can sometimes just straight up delete them, and you can see our curve barely changed, but it's just going to smooth it out that much more in that general area. And, you know, maybe here, depending on what your attribute is, you might even be able to like just straight up delete like all of them in there. So here, you know, we could straighten this out like that, or I could just delete it. It's up to you, but it's just food for thought of, you know, how to break down your keyframes. Now, you could have avoided that by just keying specific attributes instead of just keying everything like I was doing. I was just keying everything on every frame. But maybe that is not what you want to do. And let's see, the best way to really tell here is if I kind of scrub through the animation and see what it looks like. I think that's pretty good for now. Delete that one, don't need it. Hammer bend. This is probably going to be pretty okay. This one probably don't need. Maybe I'll just do this. Smooth that out a little bit. Delete that. Now, of course, the other thing we could do in the graph editor is to retime specific parts of our animation. I'm not 100% sure if there is a part that I want to retime right now. This looks a little weird. What's going on here? I think I should delete that one. That seems like it's out of line. You're out of line. And same thing with this guy here. Are you really contributing that much? What happens if I delete you? Oh, I'll leave that one. What happens this guy? So that was just a little bit of simple graph editor tweaking. You can do lots more in the graph editor, but just because of the way that I animated this, it didn't require too much. Maybe I'll turn on my motion blur for this. And of course, I probably should have watched this in a play blast. I'm kind of just rushing through this because I don't want this video to be an hour long or anything like that. But if we watch play blast, make sure that we're satisfied with the overall timing and everything of my animation, and we don't have any bias because it's a rendered video instead of in the viewport. Pretty good. Pretty good. Alright, so just to finish this, I might bring my crate back into the picture here. So maybe I do some sort of a little animation where the crate like flies onto the frame or something. So here, maybe the crate flies in. Actually, I should probably determine where the hammer hits first. That's where what I really should do. Hammer hits right here, so I'll key that. Except now I can bring that key wherever I want because that's not where we just wanted to position. And maybe I'll put a little bit of a rotation on this. Like so. Actually, I'll put the rotation on this frame here. And I'm going to go into my graph editor. And I want to change the beginning to be linear and the end to be more curved. And same thing with the rotation, whatever rotation that was. Which one were you? There we go. Maybe I'll even exaggerate that. Go like that. So that's not really the main point of our animation, so it's okay. It's not the greatest, but that's a little bit too fast, to be honest with you. I'm gonna pull that a little bit further. And now I want my crate to smash when the hammer hits it. So here, set a keyframe on the blend shape. The very next frame basically getting smashed. By the way, making sound effects while you animate is the best way to do it. And you know, we're getting some clipping through here, but we're going to probably look at this side, and it looks okay for now from that side. So, why is this rotating? Did I set a rotation? I don't remember doing that. Nope, now I didn't, because I can use Graph Editor. And, yeah, something's definitely going on here. That's because this is, like, overshooting its own rotation. You be linear. You be that way. Now behave yourselves. Right. I'm still not entirely sure what did I animate in here that I don't remember setting a keyframe on anything other than, you know what? Delete you. Oh, okay. Somehow I'm getting extra keyframes in here. So now my crate gets smashed real good. And you know, maybe I can even have a thing where smash that. And then maybe after the hammer starts lifting up, this, you know, goes forward a little bit like that. It's not really, or maybe it'd be funny if it gets like lifted up, like it's plastered onto the front of it or something. Again, the only way to tell what looks good is to just play around with it. So if it looks dumb, then just undo it. No biggie. It's a bit, well, it looks a bit weird, to be honest. It does look a bit weird. Maybe it's because of the rotation. Who knows? Maybe it's just ill-conceived in the first place. But maybe it'd be funny if it popped up a little bit at the end, like it went slightly uncompressed. But yeah, I think that looks dumb. So you know what? I'm just gonna delete all those keyframes. And we're back to just with this. We're still getting some weirdness going on with some of our attributes in here. I guess that is the bad thing about always just keying every attribute, is that when you don't want it to happen, it can sometimes actually mess up your animation. So just because I was being lazy and keying every single frame with every single attribute doesn't mean that that is the best way of doing it, because clearly it's not. Okay, so I think that's about it for now. It's already going to be almost a half an hour long. But hey, animation takes a long time, and it takes longer when you're explaining it to people. So I just kind of wanted to walk you through my process of animating something like this, and how to use the controls for it, and how to kind of tweak your animation once you have the timing blocked in. And you know, this looks pretty good actually for only taking like 20 minutes to do it. So hopefully that insight into my animation process that I personally do was helpful for you guys. And I look forward to seeing your race videos next week. Alright, peace.